Good morning, it's Loren Lockman from the Tanglewood Wellness Center in Costa Rica. And I wanted to address something this morning that has been bugging me. As a practicing natural hygienist for many years now, coming up on 24 years, I've been practicing, teaching, living the principles of hygiene. It drives me crazy when people, often who have very little experience, insist that the teachers, some of the masters of hygiene who've gone before, people like Herbert Shelton and T.C. Fry, and some of the people long before, that they are, if they said something, that's it, that's the law. That's a fact, right? That we should stop thinking and stop looking at our own experience and just believe whatever these people told us, because, let's face it, they were God, right? Of course not. These were fallible human beings who in many cases were living and writing and speaking and teaching a long time ago. There was less information available. Okay, they didn't have all the same facts. Now, even in some cases where they did have access to some of the information, distillation, for instance, distilled water, most natural hygienists still recommend using distilled water. And I get told all the time, well, Herbert Shelton said distilled water was better. Okay, good for him. He's dead. Look how far it got him. If he'd been doing what I was doing, maybe he'd still be alive today. Maybe not. But I would suggest to you that if Herbert Shelton was alive today, he would say, think for yourself. Look at the facts. People are wrong. What we believed yesterday, tomorrow we find out wasn't true. He wouldn't say, believe everything I said because I said so, because he was smarter than that. But there are a lot of people who say, well, Herbert Shelton said, therefore. And who are you? Who are you to question Herbert Shelton? I'm a guy with a working brain, a functioning brain who has experience and can look at the facts. And the facts I see say that going all the way back to the 1800s, studies showed that distilled water takes electrolytes from the organism. And this is true whether it's a human body, or it's an animal body, or it's a plant body. Okay? Distilled water is harmful to every organism. And this is what the research has shown. There are many studies from way back when that showed the same thing. Now, a lot of people don't pay attention to this, especially hygienists, because Herbert Shelton said. But where's any evidence supporting the idea that distilled water is better for you or that it doesn't do this, when there's a fair amount of research that says that it does? Okay, I can't find it. I don't see any research, just a bunch of opinions. Now, is distilled water purer than other forms of water? What do you think? It is. It is almost certainly the purest water you can drink. Does that mean it's better for us? No, I don't think it does. Any more, we want to be breathing clean air, not smog, not car exhaust, etc. But do we want our air to be pure? Should we be breathing gases that are mixed and coming out of a tube so that they're as pure as possible? Maybe not. Maybe we actually need trace things that haven't even been measured yet. Maybe there are properties of water or substances that exist in natural water that don't exist in distilled water, which is completely unnatural. Is everybody clear on this? I'm not sure if I haven't had a chance to speak with all of you about this. I can say that today because Jessie just got here, so she hasn't heard anything yet directly from me. But there's no distilled water in nature. Clouds, right? As when the water evaporates off the planet, that's what distillation is. It's the evaporation of water leaving impurities behind, so that only those water molecules are in the clean water chamber. But what happens when water evaporates off the planet and forms a cloud and it rains? As that negatively charged water falls back to the planet, it picks up anything it encounters, in the same way that distilled water takes apart anything you try to put it in. It's hungry because it's negatively charged. It's unnatural and it leaves this negative charge, makes it looking for ions. So it collects ions from wherever it is. It collects them from the air. When that rain falls to the planet, it is not distilled water. It now contains ions. It now contains pollutants. As a permaculture teacher, you don't drink rainwater, no matter where you live, without cleansing it first. Because clouds of pollutants can travel across the planet, thousands of miles across the sky. And here we are in the middle of the jungle where there's hardly any vehicle traffic, the air is pure, we're surrounded by thousands and thousands of plants producing oxygen. We've got clean air here. But the rain is falling through layers of air that could include pollutants from Denver. No thanks, or LA. Not interested, okay? Or lots of other very toxic places on the planet. You don't know what you've got. You have to purify it before you drink it. So says permaculture. So there's no distilled water in rainwater. People say urine's distilled. Not true. Okay? How about in plants? Absolutely not. It contains ions. Why is this important? Reminder, why? What do our bodies run on? Microelectric current. Okay? Distilled water cannot conduct electricity. What makes water such a good conductor of electricity normally and naturally is because it contains ions. But if you take all the ions out, as distillation does, it doesn't conduct electricity. So how does a battery work? You've got electric plates. You're putting ions into the water, which it wants because it's if you use distilled water. But if you put no metal plates in a battery, you'd have no ability to transfer electricity, to carry energy. Okay? So we're electrical beings. We have to have something that conducts ions. Without that, that water can't cross cell membranes. Now this, the intention wasn't to get deep into distilled water. It's to point out one simple thing. No human being always speaks the truth. And I'm not suggesting I'm always right either. But when someone says, well, the only reason you should believe it is because someone else said it, and they can't support that when there's facts to support the other side, I don't really care what somebody said. Herbert Shelton was a great guy and a pioneer, and I learned a ton from him, having read almost all of his books. But he wasn't always right. Okay? No one is always right. We need to think for ourselves, and any good teacher would always tell you the same thing. Okay? Learn to think for yourself. Trust your brain, trust your experience, trust your intuition. Now, of course, with experience, the single most important thing is how you interpret it. Okay, just as studies often reach faulty conclusions, not because they have bad data necessarily, although somebody recently suggested, a scientist, that something like up to 80 or 90% of the data presented today is faulty, and often on purpose, because